Well, good evening and welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead and see what we can get into this evening. We're going to do a little bit of Midnight in the Desert with Art Bell. And this is on the Dark Matter Digital Network. This is joined by guest David Pauldines, first hour. Enjoy.
Holy mackerel, have you seen what's going on in Stonehenge? There was an archaeological group working in the Stonehenge area, using ground-penetrating radar and looking for whatever might be there in addition to Stonehenge. And I guess there have been other crews there previously, never found anything. But this group goes, they're about ready to pack it in and go home because they didn't find anything like the other groups. And then all of a sudden, they found this incredible array of rocks, just like the Stonehenge rocks, some up to 10 feet high or higher, 100 of them or more, arranged in what appears to be a kind of a semicircle around Stonehenge. Now, this is really big stuff. If you want to see more about it, artbell.com. We've got the story up there. It is just today breaking. Other news, I guess, almost worth noting. It has been a summer of chaotic activity politically. We've got Donald Trump. We've got a socialist, Bernie Sanders, ripping up Hillary. It is upside down as it is, and of course Joe Biden, maybe, as upside down as it has ever been in American politics. God bless them. The people have had enough. Well, it was supposed to be their first step to freedom from places like Syria, where they'd be killed. But now, thousands upon thousands of migrants are mired in despair, anger, and frustration in Western Europe. It's just a mess. They're on an island now, a Greek island. They're trying to get to mainland Greece so they can continue their journey. By the way, Germany has said they will take them in. That's where they're trying to go. I just have one other quick note here at the beginning, and I want you to listen to this, and it doesn't sound overly strange. I get a lot of emails from people. This is from a French man from Quebec. And it's not really that strange, but it is. He said, I had a strange encounter when I was about 21, back in 99. I was working at a gas station, finishing my shift, when a family of 4 with 2 children, a boy and a girl, came in. First glance, they seemed normal, but the children had blonde, darn near white hair. While I was looking at them, they both turned in my direction at the same time and stared at me in a silent but very intense way for about 5 seconds, but it felt much longer. They had big blue eyes with large pupils, and I mean 1.5 to 2 times what we would consider normal. They had both the same height. Nobody in the store seemed to notice them after they left. The parents didn't look a bit like them. Brown hair, normal eyes. Have you ever heard of any story like this? Sorry for the spelling, I speak French, David. And I don't know why that hit me. It just did. It's weird. And thank you, David. Maybe we'll get some feedback and proceed. I'm not sure where we would proceed with something like that, but maybe that's what we'll do. All right, coming up in a moment, I know a lot of you have been awaiting David Pauldines. He's here. David received his undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of San Francisco and has a professional background that includes 20 years in law enforcement and senior executive positions in the technology sector. In 2010, it seems a ranger at a national park informed him of a series of unusual disappearances that occurred in national parks, right? And this started an investigation into people that have vanished in national parks and forests. The result was David has now written 5 books, all entitled Missing 411. Western U.S., Eastern U.S., North America, and beyond. The Devils in the Details would be his latest, released August 30th, Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. So when we come back, David Pauldines, and we'll get into all of this and so much more. A man that I should have talked to a long time ago, but I was sort of retired at the time. David Pauldines, welcome to the program. Pleasure to be here, Art. Thanks. Good to have you. So, David, I know you've made the talk show rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds. I don't know how many you've done, a lot, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been going on about 5 years, and I've talked to all your compatriots out there.
I'm sure you have. I unfortunately have not caught you. I don't listen to other talk show hosts because I'm always scared that I'm going to pick up something from them and then subconsciously grab onto it and repeat it, and I don't want to do that. So I'm a neophyte. In terms of, I have a general idea of what you talk about, but if somebody was brand new like me, how would you start with them?
I would say that I was in a national park doing research on a peripheral topic one time. I was getting followed around the park by a couple of park rangers. I was interviewing contractors at the park. End of the day, I left the park. Hours later, I get a knock on my door. It's one of those park rangers in plain clothes. And it's Dave, I know who you are. I know your background, and I have some information that somebody like you want to get a hold of. I invited him in. I talked to him for several hours, and he stated that during the last several rounds that he had been at different parts in his career, rangers had talked about disappearing people. And he said that at the front end, there's always 7 to 10 days where there's a lot of exposure, a lot of press, a lot of big search efforts. And at the end of that period of time, there's nothing. There's no follow-up. There's no other effort to find the person. But there's nothing to find after that. And they themselves started to find information about the people, and they were somehow restricted in getting much of the information they were looking for. And he said that the other part of it was that some of the locations where the people disappeared didn't make a lot of sense to him. He said sometimes they disappear like in the middle of humanity in a park, and other times they disappear in the middle of nowhere, but there was a consistency that he could tell from it. But the consistent part that he was concerned about, and other rangers he stated were concerned about, was the lack of follow-up, the lack of effort after the people disappeared, the lack of accountability after they disappeared, etc.
Okay, you were a cop
For 20 years, yeah.
20 years. Regular cop?
I worked street crimes, detectives, SWAT team, 4 different detective units.
Regular cop. All right. You said they were concerned about the lack of follow-up, right?
Correct.
When somebody disappears in a national park, jurisdictionally, who does it belong to?
So the National Park Service has a group of between 600 and 700 full-time sworn law enforcement officers that are trained by the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. These people are very well trained, probably better than half the police officers in the United States. These people are full-time law enforcement rangers in the park carrying guns with the responsibility of law enforcement. They have a hierarchy inside the Park Service, chiefs, directors, assistant directors, etc. They understand policing very well. They understand the sense of accountability. They're a large organization, and you see them at the park every once in a while driving around, they write tickets and make arrests. And they have a division inside of them called special agents. The special agents are the detectives inside the Park Service that do the follow-up of the detective work.
Okay, so they are several, right?
Oh, yes.
So it is their jurisdiction, so nobody would come marching in from local county or any other jurisdiction at all. Or maybe the FBI, I guess, was bad enough.
Yeah, and the FBI in some of these instances was invited in, but you're right, they hold the primary jurisdiction. Sometimes they do invite search and rescue organizations from counties and nearby jurisdictions to come in. Other times, they don't let anybody in. There's no consistency there, but you're correct, there's some sort of jurisdiction.
Okay, well, then if they were coming to you with concern about the lack of follow-up, why weren't they looking in the mirror?
I didn't understand that at the beginning. But then after I started to look into it, it becomes pretty obvious mentality and idea of the Park Service. If you just Google search National Park employees complaint, let's say, there's an aura inside that system that isn't healthy. And the way they treat their own employees is pretty despicable. Just a quick story, there was a park ranger that disappeared in Arizona. He was never found. He refused to pay that ranger's wife his salary and his benefits, saying he just left the park. He never been found. And finally he had to go to the court to sue him for the benefits.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the problem is inside of their policing organization.
Absolutely. And what I tell every group that I speak to is that the frontline rangers that you see that are showing you around the park and helping you with botany and fisheries, etc., are self-care people. They are the best of the best. Really nice, wholesome folks. This kind of mentality and the responses we got from our Freedom of Information Act request are policies made by the high administration of parks.
Now here, I guess, is where you can tell me a couple of rounder stories. I would like to know what makes these disappearances so bizarre.
So when we started this, we were trying to understand where the majority of these disappearances were occurring so we could focus an effort. So we filed a series of Freedom of Information Act requests against the Park Service asking them for their list of missing people inside their system. Seems like a natural, easy thing to go through. Well, several weeks later, I get a call from an attorney inside the Park Service asking me why I wanted that information.
I mean, why should you even have to file a Freedom of Information Act to get this information in the first place?
You're saying the required here, Art. I'm with you 100%.
All right, so anyway, force us to it. You did it.
And knowing a little bit about the law, and that's an inappropriate question to ask anybody. And in fact, in the Freedom of Information Act, it says that they can't ask that question and use it as a determining factor to give you the information. And I asked them, I said, well, why are you even asking me? It's a mundane request. It's interesting because I need to know. I said, well, we're just doing research. And he says, well, we don't have any lists. And I said, well, what do you mean you don't have any lists? And he says, we don't keep track of missing people inside our parks. And I said, how can that be? And he says, no, we don't have any lists. Well, at the time, I was a published author. So I said, okay, I want an author section because I'm published. I want the list. He says, well, we'll have to get back to you.
Well, the list that they don't have.
Well, I'm asking him to do the job now.
Well, he said we don't have a list. We don't keep lists, right?
Right. So a month and a half later, I get another contact, this time from the regional coordinator out of Denver. And she tells me that, well, Dave, I was told by our administration that your books aren't in enough libraries to qualify for you.
Okay.
And I said, okay.
And can I just curiously ask how many libraries one has to be in to qualify?
That's the $1 million question. And they said, well, that's your decision, Dave. That's not mine. I was speaking from the Denver office.
Okay.
And so from that point, I said, okay, well then tell me how much money it's going to cost me to get the list from Yosemite and from your entire system. She goes, okay, I'll get back to you. Another 4 or 5 weeks come by, calls me back and she says, Dave, well, the list from Yosemite is going to cost you $34,000. And the list from the entire system is going to be $1.4 million.
What are they taxing it in gold? Yeah, maybe you don't get this, okay. And I'm sure you said, excuse me, how much and why?
I didn't write a check, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, so that outlined to us some important points. It was pretty obvious from the get-go that they didn't want that information getting out. And in talking to some of the best journalists I could find, everyone said, Dave, they're outright lying. There's no way they don't keep track of missing people in their system. And I tend to believe that because over the last 6 years now, people have sent me a series of lists that the Park Service keeps. One of them is a list of movies that have been filmed in the western U.S. national parks since the 1940s. Okay. So they find value in that, but they don't find value in knowing where missing people were located.
I've got to back up and ask, I mean, it just blows my mind. How could the list cost that much? Surely you ask.
Well, they told me that it would take a supervisor earning $65 an hour going to each one of these locations, or them contracting it out at these various locations, them going through their files and digging through their files, trying to find missing persons cases.
Boy, that's just incredible, but okay. Okay, so did you finally secure a list for the list?
Well, it's a real slippery slope, Art, because after digging through the policies and procedures and how the national park handles missing people, after 10 years, they have a category called missing presumed dead, which technically, after 10 years, you're no longer missing.
Right, got it. Missing presumed dead. All right. So anyway, did we finally get a number of all categories? Missing, presumed dead, whatever else?
No, they refused to work it, and I decided, along with a series of other people, that what we would do is we would one by one, the best we could, going through archives and finding the number of missing people at the different locations, national parks, monuments, etc. And at this point, it branched out to also U.S. National Forest because a lot of things happen right on that periphery. And we're at about 1,600 people right now in North America.
May I ask this? If that would be your number, you're thinking 1,600, yes?
Oh, no. I mean, it's probably double or triple that.
Okay. All right. Here comes my question anyway, just for starters. If you take that number and you apply it to the number of people that visit our national parks by percentage, and then you look at North America, let's say, because we probably get the stats best for North America, and compare it to the number of people missing in North America for any given year, we see a difference.
First of all, the number is infinitesimal compared to the number of people who visit the park.
No, by percent, yes, of course, but by percentage.
Again, I don't want to make that because we truly don't know. At this point, I'd be playing into their hands by giving you a number.
All right, but I was just trying to get an idea if it's larger than the national average of people that go missing every year, or not. What would be your guess?
Oh, I'm sure it's way less because the numbers that you read about in the newspapers and the magazines and the FBI statistics are very skewed. If one runaway disappears from their house 6 times in a year, that's 6 different missing people that go into the statistics of NCIC.
Okay, that's true.
So it's a very skewed number. It's only the number where it's a suspicious unknown perpetrator, which is about 1.5% of all disappearances of missing people.
All right, let's move on then to what makes these disappearances so puzzling.
So after reading thousands of reports and going over many articles and just grabbing anything we can, we started to find that certain things come out at you that are abnormal. And we first set the criteria at rural disappearances, no suspects on the case, the person can't have a history of mental illness, it can't be a voluntary disappearance, There's no evidence of an animal attack or human predation. And one of the biggies is lack of scent. And by the canines or the bloodhounds that came to the scene, they can't find a scent trail of the victim. Many of the times, the victim, if they're found alive or deceased, they're missing clothing or shoes. Depending on the geographical area they disappeared, older fields and berries are involved. And then soon after the victim disappears, bad weather is often associated with the disappearance. If the victim is found, they're often found near creeks, rivers, bodies of water. And the majority of the incidents occur in a time frame between 4 to 5 p.m. or slightly later. If the missing is located, they're often found unconscious or semi-conscious. And later on when they're questioned, the majority of the time, these victims can't remember what happened, where they went, or how they disappeared. Wow. In an abnormal number of times where a doctor or the parents talk about it, they talk about the person having a fever, a low-grade fever. And this is the one that will blow your mind, but the missing are most often found in an area that has been searched many times before, sometimes dozens of times. And bam, they're all of a sudden right there.
Well, you sort of moved it almost to the paranormal. I mean, with those facts alone, I'm not jumping to the paranormal. I'm just saying that it seems impossible.
I'll keep going, and this will probably even draw you more there, but there's more often than not, there's two ends of the intellectual spectrum that are involved in these disappearances. There's a significant number of physicists, physicians, and super smart people that disappear, and many times they're never found. A lot of times, people with significant autism, dementia, impaired ability to think, etc., they disappear, and oftentimes, if they're found, they can't explain what happened.
Of course.
And then one of the last things is that there's a geographical clustering of these people. There's 52 clusters of missing people in North America. And this is something that surprises us because when you're dealing with hundreds, you don't realize it until you put a map on the wall, start putting pins on it, where they start to fall out.
So tales of the scale of the intellectual scale, and that's the scientists you mentioned, very bright people, and then autistic people, and people at the other end of the scale, not so much in the middle.
Middle ground like me, yeah, it happens, but it doesn't happen in sync to the frequency that we're looking at for these ends. And it's a strange paradox that we realized probably in the middle of research.
Well, important though, because of course it could go to motive. I mean, what do they want with people with these attributes?
Well, I get emails about that all the time. People read the books and they say, well, it could be this. A lot of great ideas.
But no evidence yet.
Well, when the people are found, whether they're deceased or alive, and they go through either an autopsy or they go through a doctor's examination, the other thing on this is that many times the medical examiner, if they find a person, if we find them, they can't determine the cause of death, which is pretty strange.
It's very strange. It does occur. I mean, sometimes they are stumped. Now, they don't know what killed somebody, but they do call it a natural death.
Dark Matter News. I'm Leland Shreft. A new photo is causing quite a stir online as it depicts what appears to be a blue, luminous angel floating in the smoke above a church in Ohio. And this interesting story comes to us from Dark Matter News staff writer Kingslayer. Night was alight in Ohio last week as a suspicious fire ripped through Faith Church on Old Chillicothe Road in Fayette County. Flames licked 20 feet into the air, and the heat of the fire combined with a hot, humid night made it especially difficult for firefighters as they battled the blaze into the late night and early morning. During the chaos, Brett Nicely said his son snapped a photograph that appears to show an angel-like figure hovering just above the fire. Offering some sort of explanation for the Blue Angel, Joshua Hobbs said it could either be a high-powered flashlight or possibly an optical illusion brought on by a mixture of high heat and the metal materials that were in the church structure itself. Finally, though, in commenting on the angel theory, Hobbs said this: "Idols always survive the worst fires, so I won't question anything in terms of church. I wouldn't put anything past that possibility." So anyway, check out the picture. Let us know what you think. Is it a flashlight, heat, metal, or was there a divine hand at play? Take a look. DarkMatterNews.com. Campers near the Khmerville region of Russia woke up to an astonishing sight. Dennis Alexandrov and his friends were enjoying the hiking trails inside of Shorsky National Park. They noticed something unusual in the wet clay. Curious, his father, Andre, decided to venture over and investigate. So they went over to the place where the kids saw the footprint. The only thing I can say was, I know it exists. The creature must have been very tall. According to the Siberian Times, the print measured approximately 18 inches in length. Skeptics of the image point out that the creature's footprint appears too clean to reveal distinguishing lines or marks, as if it were created by an adult foot through a sliding motion in the mud. The shape of the toe pattern also appears similar to the shape of the toes of an adult. Yes, the search for the elusive yeti continues. No hair, tissue samples, or imprints of the foot were known to have been collected at the site. Samples that have been collected at other sites around the region have been DNA tested. One sample allegedly belonged to a horse, and the other two samples belonged to an American black bear. Still, Bigfoot enthusiasts claim that anywhere from 30 to 200 could roam in southern Siberia. Let us know if you have any further information to add to this story. What do you think it could be? Have you witnessed a Bigfoot? Let us know at darkmatternews.com. According to reports, an estimated 30 cadets were injured in a hazing ritual at West Point Military Academy in New York. Because a pillow fight. Injuries ranged from bruises to concussions, and reported by 24 of the 30 cadets. As bloody images emerged, reports of broken bones did as well. The pillows allegedly contained hard objects. This is not your average pillow fight. The images and video had circulated on social media when the alleged event took place on August 20th. Investigators just confirmed the incident last Thursday. No cadets have been punished, though West Point has been questioned about similar issues in the past. The annual ritual, said to have been implemented in 1897, will continue as the school has no plans to break tradition over the incident. All cadets have reported again for duty. What if King Kamehameha's spear is missing? Police on Hawaii's Big Island are asking the public for help locating the top section of the spear that's part of the statue of the Hawaiian warrior, Hilo. They say the spear was last seen Saturday and was reported missing Sunday. The spear with the golden tip is about 6 feet long. Kamehameha I is known for uniting the Hawaiian Islands in 1810. I'm Leo Ashcraft. Dark Matter News. David Pauldines is my guest, and I must admit I just laid down a sobering list of things to shake your head at. All these people going missing in national parks, and not much follow-up with the national park organization with regard to what happened to them. All right, welcome back, David. I live here in the desert, and I mean serious desert, cactus, very serious. Temperature goes up typically to 110, 112 or higher during the summer. And inevitably, every summer, people with no prior history of mental illness simply decide to wander out into the desert where they inevitably die. So I guess it is reasonable to ask if something like that could be going on with respect to national parks as well. If you decided to take your own life for whatever rational or irrational reason you might have, a national park would be a pretty place to do it. Yes?
Sure, but if there's ever any inclination that that person had a mental illness or was about to commit suicide, it wouldn't be one of the cases that we considered to load up.
Okay, well, not all suicide is irrational necessarily. I mean, that's subjective. But, if you've got something wrong with you, then of course it's a likelihood. Another thing that occurred to me that I want to ask you about is the possibility, and I haven't actually heard the details of any of these cases yet, and I want to do that. But, does any of this lead you to the conclusion that we could be dealing with a serial killer or even a series of serial killers?
So if I could just back up a little bit, when you talk about people who want to commit suicide, there's large numbers in the books that I write about that are very young children. And so that issue of suicide or voluntary disappearance is kind of washed away. And if you remember that, if you just stick to those profile points I gave you, no scent, they're running professional trackers, there's no track that they can find, and people don't call for help. It's like they have vanished completely. There is no track to follow, there is no scent. Sometimes the canines will walk in a circle and lay down. Sometimes they look at the trail and they just don't want anything to do with it.
No, David, I'm with you. I mean, everything you write down leads me toward the paranormal. I'm trying to sort of back up and see if there's any other thing that might make sense. A serial killer, of course, doesn't make sense. And there would be sense, and there would be tracks, and there would be a lot of things. So, I'm with you. I'm just reaching.
Oh, and that's logic. And when I tell a group of people, this is where everybody goes in that comfort place in your mind, trying to rationalize this away. And the first thing is, well, could it be a serial killer on the trail? Well, I live in Colorado, and my guess it's probably 80% of the people on the trail carry a gun. So I've never heard of somebody trying to abduct somebody on the trail because there'd be a firefight and there'd be dead people laying there.
Very good point.
And the other thing is that what do you do with somebody who's 5'10" and weighs 200 pounds? You're not going to carry them very far on a trail.
No, you're not. Maybe you bury them. I don't know. You set up a series of things that can lead right back to paranormal because it's all so impossible. Can you give me a couple of specifics? You documented these cases, so if you reach back for one of them, were the most puzzling cases you could find, give me a couple of them.
Well, let's start with some this summer that happened that are right on key. Talk about Grand Canyon National Park. And there was a group of people that went down the river with a tour company floating down the Colorado. They were about 4 or 5 days in, and they always stopped at this one place. There was a small creek that flows into the Colorado. They let everybody get out. They walk up this creek, not very far, a couple hundred yards, and there's a waterfall that goes into this deep pond. People jump off the rock into the little water pool, and then they all walk back after a couple hours to the boat, and they go further down the river. Well, Morgan Hyber was one of the tour guides. He was in his first year from the University of Wyoming, 22 years old, stellar kid. June 2nd, 2015, the group stopped 4 or 5 days and far outside the normal bounds of the park, and they were really deep in there. And the group gets up, and they walk up to this pool, they have fun, and Morgan is the last person in line as they're walking back. He's wearing his life preserver, he's carrying a water bottle, and the creek is so small that people say you can wade across it without coming up to your waist. Long story short, everyone gets back, Morgan doesn't come back. Someone from that company called me and told me the details that I'm telling you now, that a lot of it didn't become public. But they said that they were absolutely baffled what happened to him because it makes no sense. There's usually anywhere. Canyon walls were steep. They got out their satellite phone. They called for help. That night, late, the National Park Service shows up. They search for a few days. They don't find anything. He never been found. Now, Roger Marsh from the movie wrote a couple of my books. He wrote an article for the Huffington Post called "Don't Be Last in Line," because many of the stories in my books involve people that are last in line, or first in line on a hike, and get out of sight momentarily and disappear and are gone.
Okay, if you're a serial killer, that's how you're going to pick somebody off. you're gonna wait for the last guy in the line. Now, again, I know you can recite everything you've recited, and I'm going to agree with you. But indeed, that's what you do. You pick somebody in the middle, and you got fired. Right?
Well, and I can only go case by case like that, right? Insurance. There are so many miles from anybody. Nobody is even in the area. There's no way to walk in that area without walking in for days to get to the specific location.
Was the Morgan ever found?
No.
No evidence? Nothing that could yield up the DNA and says, that says this is Morgan Island?
Nothing has ever come up. And I'm sure that they went to his parents and got some DNA material to put in the database, but at this point, happened June 2nd, 2015.
Gone, because that's weird. Really weird. If somebody had grabbed him, I mean, they weren't that far apart in the line, were they? I asked that because you'd grunt, you'd scream, you'd do something if somebody grabbed you.
Absolutely you would. And that's another thing. There's a complete absence of any yells for help, calls for help in these cases that we're talking about right now. Now, some of the other things that have happened over the years, there is some indication that something really strange is going on because the person happened to be on the phone with another individual at the time they disappeared. In these cases that we're talking about right here, there's nothing.
Okay, that was weird, all right. Somebody who's heard you in previous shows, I guess, elsewhere, asks, please ask David about the condition of the feet. What condition feet are in when these people are found. They're often found without their shoes, miles and miles away from the last known position over very rough terrain.
Well, that's $1 million question that I ask myself all the time. And the reality is that you've got to understand the mentality of the search and rescue people. They don't think anything strange is going on. They don't think anything unusual has happened. They just think the person's missing. And many times the news broadcasts will show somebody walking back with no shoes, and nobody ever thinks to ask them what happened or thinks to say, how did you lose your shoes? The question is not asked. Because these people are not criminal investigators. They're not thinking along the lines that you and I are right now. And I don't blame them for that because search and rescue people, 95% of them are volunteers. They could be engineers, they could be human resource people, they could be anything. But they're just there looking for people. And they're just so happy that they found them. That's the end of the game.
In a national park, assuming you got separated and were lost, the last thing you would take off would be your shoes. Because obviously you're stepping on all kinds of things that can harm you, so it doesn't make any sense at all. Okay. A jump ahead question. Since all this publicity, you've had book after book. And I wonder how the National Park Service has reacted to the publicity you've generated.
I can tell you that we're in the middle right now of making a film about a number of these disappearances. And we met a family at Mesa Verde National Park. And they told us a story about their dad who disappeared. And while we were in the park, we were with the victim's family. And they wanted us to interview the chief park ranger and the superintendent about the disappearance. Right? And these people went to the front desk. And those two individuals would not even come to the front desk and talk to those people. They had an assistant come up and said, well, they're not available. We said, well, can we talk to them? Well, they're not available right now. And that type of mentality towards a victim's family, when they lost their dad in that park, was absolutely unbelievable.
Well, was it your name that got the invitation?
We hadn't even been in there. We were standing outside and they walked in.
Let me circle back to the question. Since you've written these books, with respect to you, how has the National Park Service been treating you? They can't be happy.
Well, no, I mean, we continue to file Freedom of Information Act requests for reports on missing people inside their park. They classified me last year as what's called a commercial requester. I've never heard that before. And because of that, they quadrupled the fees that they would charge the normal public. I wondered. As an example, there was an incident where a park ranger disappeared in Rocky Mountain National Park, disappeared for 10 days, he was found dead. Made a request for that report. They said it was going to cost me $7,500.
Whatever happened to law enforcement cooperation?
Well, that's a really good question. We're actually at Rocky Mountain National Park on a portfolio issue. And I'm in this little satellite office on the way up to one of the mountain climbing sites. I see a table with 4 individuals, older guys, sitting around talking, and they talk like they were cops, but they were all in plain clothes. And I told my friend outside, I said, hey, we're waiting right here. I'm not going anywhere. I got to talk to one of these guys. When I walks out, I meet him in the parking lot. I introduce myself. He goes, oh, my name is so-and-so. I'm a retired special agent from the Park Service. I'm thinking, oh, I hit the glory hole right here. Ended up talking for a couple hours in the parking lot, and I explained all the issues I had with the Park Service and how they had obstructed the living and everything they could. I said, how do you account for that? And he said, Dave, it's very easy. He says, a complete lack of integrity. And he went out and he told me a story about an investigation he was doing into a park superintendent, a high criminal felony case, and he got a call from Washington just to drop it. He go on, walk away. He was getting the way the Park Service works.
And the answer to the question why is corrupt.
He didn't really go into that. He just explained it in very simple terms that don't be offended because it's probably not you per se, but it's just the way they do business. And he said, you're never probably going to get that information out of them regarding missing people because they don't want you to have it.
All right. How weird does it really get? I mean, you go ahead and hit me with a couple of other cases. You would think that some of the weirdness you're describing, it would have caused other investigators, paranormal type people, at the point to jump in and begin investigating and looking for signs of Bigfoot or some wolfman or God knows what. So, let's see, I'm holding up a lot of cases, and I'm interested in how weird they really are.
So why haven't other people looked at this? Something called plausible deniability. Meaning, in our world, we've been told it's normal for people to go down a trail and disappear and never be found. Really? Well, and that's kind of the way it goes because you only hear about these people for a couple days, a couple of reports. Once they're missing and they're never found, you never hear about it.
Well, maybe it's normal on TV. You know, the last guy in the line disappears since it's snatched away. It doesn't happen that way in real life, only you're saying it does.
So, talk about another case here. June 9th, 2015, Chiracahua National Monument, jurisdiction of the National Park Service, a 44-year-old woman with the capacity of a 5-year-old is with her dad, who's a physician, and her mom. In the motorhome of their dad, they stop at the monument, and the girl gets out with her mom, and they go to the restroom. The mom goes to the restroom, and so does the girl. The girl leaves early to go back to the motorhome. The dad's waiting there, not far away. She never comes back. Mom comes back. He said, well, let's look around. They look around. They can't find her. They call for a National Park Ranger, and a search starts. Sure. Now, what's interesting about her, first of all, her name was Janet Castrojohn. She's never been found. That was this year, June 9th. What's interesting about this is the same location on January 13th, 1980, the only national park ranger to ever disappear on day and never be found, all for games.
Okay, so she's mentally impaired. You've already said. One would imagine she could have wandered away. One would not imagine she'd get very far, and that if something awful happened, if she fell or whatever, obviously she would be found.
Absolutely. They bring in a series of canines and bloodhounds from different search and rescue organizations, and they all say we can't find a scent trail.
And the dogs had something to start with, some article of clothing or something that they could, grab the scent from and then go look.
Absolutely.
That is really, really weird. And the park ranger, what about him? He's presumably something of a survivalist himself, or have some of those skills, yes?
I wouldn't call him a survivalist at all. In fact, he was probably more the urban park ranger. Everything I read about him in the file, and I did get a file on him. It was about 8 inches thick. They did a huge investigation on him. There were allegations at the beginning that it was a voluntary disappearance, and that, like I said, this case where they refused to give his widow any benefits at all. She had to get an attorney and sue him in federal court, and finally make him pay. It was unbelievable when you read the story. But no, he's never been found.
Not anything at all? Not an article of clothing? Not bones? Not anything?
Nothing.
I don't see how that can be.
Well, he walked off on a trail, supposedly going to go check on something. Reports said that it was late in the afternoon. People saw him leave. He left. They went to search the area later. They found nothing.
That is just not within my realm of understanding to when I try to process this. Please, my guess.